finally time for the gear loadout video. I've been wanting to do one of these for a while now, and we just got back from Red River Gorge. If you haven't had a chance to check out the video, I'll go ahead and put a link right up here. Go ahead and check it out and let me know what you guys think. Would love to hear your guys' feedback on it. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to go through my backpack and see everything that I packed for that trip, as well as what I've been using throughout 2020 so far. So let's get started. Alright, so let's get started with the first piece of gear I purchased, my backpack. This is the Gregory Stout 65-liter bag, and it comes in at 3 pounds 14 ounces. Now I believe this is the 2017 or 2018 model. I say that because there's definitely newer models out there for the Stout that have new features such as a mesh pocket on the front here, which would be absolutely awesome to have on this pack. Now, overall, this pack has been great for me. I've had no major issues with it, and it's helped me carry anywhere between 30 and 45 pounds on a backpacking trip. I know 45 pounds is absolutely nuts, but it's funny to bring that up. Some of the gear that I'm actually going through, I purchased in an effort to drop that weight down to around 30, which is what I typically run on a weekend trip now. Again, awesome backpack so far. The build quality is just top notch, and the materials they've used in this have definitely held through over the years so far. So overall, this has been a great backpack for me. Alright, so let's get started with one of my favorite pieces of gear that I've purchased recently, the Big Agnes Copper Spur Ultralight one-person tent. This has been an absolute game changer for me, specifically because of the weight savings. Previously, I used a 2-person tent, and with the footprint included, it came in at just under 6 pounds. This tent with the footprint comes in at just 2 pounds 9 ounces. So by switching over to this tent, I've been able to shed 3 pounds of my base weight, which has helped lower it tremendously. Now, a couple things I really enjoy about this tent. Build quality is solid. The materials that are used in this tent, you can definitely tell they've used some high quality materials. The bucket where the bottom of the tent meets the mesh is nice and high, so I haven't had any issues with water splashback coming up through the mesh in a heavy rainstorm or any leakage whatsoever. But probably the most significant item I really enjoy about this is everything's color-coded. The rainfly, the footprint, the poles, and the tent itself are all color-coded, so it's nice and easy to know which direction to set everything up in when you're getting ready to put your tent together. That's especially significant when it comes to setting this up at night when it's dark and you don't have much light. You gotta get tent set up real quick. It's really nice and easy to lay everything out, use those colors to figure out which direction everything needs to be put in. Awesome. Now I will say this does come in a little bit steep at price. This was $260 I believe when I purchased it, but so far it's been worth every penny. Alright, so last but not least when it comes to the big three is my sleeping bag. In here I have the Kelty Tuck 30-degree synthetic bag, which comes in at 2 pounds 8 ounces. Now, pro tip for you guys, which I discovered on YouTube from some other backpackers, is I put my clothes in my sleeping bag and put them all in the same compression sack. That way I don't have to have another compression sack rolling around in my bag, and it saves a little bit of weight. Now, overall, I've been pretty happy with this sleeping bag. It came in at, I believe, $60 when I purchased it, so price point is definitely pretty low compared to some other bags on the market. Now, I will say, after having tried down, I definitely prefer down to synthetic because they do compress more and they are lighter weight, but this happens to be the lowest insulated rating bag that I have at 30 degrees. The others are a 20 and a 0-degree bag, which is just complete overkill for the hot summer months that we may camp in, where temperatures get to the high 50s. So overall, pretty pleased with this bag. On to the next item. another one of my favorite pieces of gear that I've purchased recently is the Therm-a-Rest NeoAir Xlite sleeping pad. This is the regular wide version, and it comes in at 17.4 ounces. Now, this is the 2020 model, and I say that because this has some features that some of the other ones didn't. This has an R value of 4.2, and it has the pump sack included. Now, the pump sack. I never had used a pump sack in the past before, and I'd never really done any research on them, but I gotta say it's definitely a nice option to have. You know, you get done hiking a long day, you get to camp, and you're sitting there worried about, you know, breathing and inflating your sleeping pad, but you don't really have to worry about that with the pump sack. Now, I will say, I feel like it takes longer to get my pad inflated using the pump sack than just breathing into it. But it's still a nice option to have available to you, especially if you may be at like a high altitude spot where you're already short of breath. Another nice feature with the pump sack is that it actually doubles as a pack liner. I believe it's a 40-liter capacity, so just another option that is available to you with that item. Overall, I've been very pleased with the build quality. I've had no issues with slow leaks or my hips or anything digging in at night. It's just been an extremely solid sleeping pad for me so far. The only con that I have, and I knew about it before I purchased this, looking at all the reviews that were out there for it, is it's a little bit loud. When you're shuffling around and moving around at night, whatever insulation materials were made in this pad, definitely make it a little bit noisy, but it has not been a major issue for me so far. So this pad I'm definitely bringing with me on pretty much every trip here on out, and I've been extremely pleased with it. On to the cook system. Now, I've been using this system for the past year, and it's been an awesome upgrade that I've added to my arsenal. Previously, I used the Optimus Crux Lite cook system, and I didn't have any major issues with it. It worked great for me. It was a solid purchase, but for having that for myself out in the backcountry, it was just a little bit too much. It was too big, too bulky, too heavy, so I decided to try and cut some of my base weight and slim down my cook system. So I went with the Toaks Titanium 550 milliliter pot. This thing is super light. It comes in at just 2.8 ounces, and it's been great for me so far. Typically, all I use my pot for is boiling water for coffee and Mountain House meals. I haven't had a Mountain House meal yet that has required more water than this needs. Typically, 2 cups of water is what I'll use, and this has been able to provide that for me so far. Another nice feature that I really like about this is the handle. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's got a nice spot for your hand. So when you're having your coffee, it's got almost like a built-in little rest for your finger. Just a nice little feature that's on there. So in here, I do have my stove as well as my fuel. This is one of the 4-ounce models. It's pretty much the only canister that I can actually fit in here. I was initially worried that I wasn't going to have enough fuel for my weekend trips, but so far I haven't had any issues. I believe I've actually had this for my last 2 trips, and there's still some fuel left in there. So been pretty pleased so far with these smaller canisters and have not had an issue running out of fuel yet. Alright, onto this stove. This is the BRS 3000 titanium stove, and this thing is absolutely tiny. It comes in at just 0.9 ounces, so it's also extremely lightweight, and I believe I snagged this for 15 bucks on Amazon, so it's also extremely cheap when it comes to price point. Overall, I've been extremely pleased with this stove. It's lightweight, durable. The legs definitely have solid support to it. I have had some other stoves where the legs, when I had my cup with the boiling water on it, it felt like it was just shifting around quite a bit, and I really had to keep an eye out and make sure that the water didn't spill or the whole thing didn't fall off. Have not had that issue with this stove whatsoever. And I gotta say too, for how small and compact it is, it definitely puts off quite a big flame. I've had this cranked up all the way before, and the flame on here is very strong. So overall, awesome stove, and I've been extremely pleased with this so far. Alright, time for my luxury item. This is the Helinox Chair Zero. I got this past Christmas as a gift, so I've been able to take it with me on my last 4 or 5 trips, and it's been awesome for me. You know, you get done with a long day of hiking, not having to worry about sitting on an uncomfortable stump or log, having a nice chair to relax, you know, rest your feet, rest your legs. It's been really nice for me so far. This comes in at just a pound. It's super easy to set up, super quick, and size, it's not very big. You should be able to fit this in your water pockets, or if you have straps on the bottom of your pack, should be able to strap this right on, no problems. Overall, extremely pleased with this so far, and I take this with me on every trip that I go on now. Alright, on to the food bag. Actually, this is leftovers from our Red River Gorge trip. I typically overpack on food. I would much rather have more food than I need and carry it out than be hungry at camp and run out of food on the last day. Typically, food-wise, I'll pack 2 or 3 Mountain House breakfasts, 2 or 3 Mountain House dinners, Cliff Bars, beef jerky, Pop-Tarts. I'll pack my coffee in here, and last but definitely not least, I got a bottle of Tabasco in here as well for my Mountain House dinners. So that's typically what I pack in my dinner bag. Alright, everybody's favorite topic, water filtration. In here I have the CNOC Vecto 2-liter water bag, as well as the Ketadine Bee-Free water filter with the 1-liter bag. Recently I switched from the Sawyer Squeeze over to the Ketadine Bee-Free, and I don't think I'm going to be going back anytime soon. This Ketadine filter has just been amazing so far when it comes to performance. It's able to filter water extremely fast, and I plan on using it for all of my upcoming trips in the future. So extremely pleased with that filter so far. If you haven't had an opportunity to check it out, I highly recommend taking a look. Not too much to this one. This is my camera accessory bag. In here I have a couple lens cap covers, an extra SD card, and 2 batteries, as well as a battery charging station. I do have the Canon M50 mirrorless camera, and the battery life on it is definitely not the best, especially when the LED screen's being used. So typically when I get to camp, I'll charge both of my batteries. It does charge 2 batteries at once, and it plugs right into my battery bank using micro USB, which is really nice. So moving on to the battery bank. This is the Anker PowerCore 20,000 milliamp PD battery bank, and it comes in at 12.8 ounces. In terms of technical specs, this takes at least a full day to charge from being in a dead state, but it does offer between 5 and 5.5 full capacity charges depending on the device you're using, whether that's an iPhone or an Android phone. The PD version also supports a fast charging capability. If you double tap the charging button on here, you'll see a green light pop up. That indicates that you're charging in a higher speed than the normal mode offers. So it is nice if you are in a pinch and need to get something charged quickly, you can just toggle that mode real quick and enable it. Overall performance so far, it's been great. I have actually never fully used this on any of the trips that I've done so far. Typically, I'll end a trip with half capacity left on this, and that sometimes includes charging multiple phones as well as the batteries for my camera. So performance has been pretty awesome so far on this. I believe I snagged this on Amazon between $40 and $50, so in terms of price point, it really wasn't too bad. And overall, just a great value for this this battery bank. Onto my sleeping pillow. This is the Outdoor Vitals sleeping pillow, and it comes in at just 2.9 ounces. I managed to snag a couple of these up on a deal I found online where all I had to do was pay for shipping. I think they were $7 or $8 a piece. Overall, it's been pretty solid for me. Definite improvement over the clothing bag that I used to have and use. That was just, it just ended up being lumpy. I never really had a solid spot to rest my head at night, and having this pillow has really been an improvement in my quality of sleep at night, so I definitely keep this with me on every trip that I go on. Well, on to the Ditty bag. I have quite the assortment of items in here. I have my toothpaste and toothbrush, toilet paper, fire starting kit, ferro rod, an extra lighter, and my paracord. Now, sometimes I will swap gear in and out of this bag. Sometimes I'll bring baby powder, maybe extra batteries for my headlamp, depending on my length of trip. But this is pretty much my miscellaneous bag that I carry. Alright, on to the headlamp. This is the Black Diamond Spot headlamp. I snagged this one up a couple months ago to replace the old headlamp I used to use. The old one just didn't have enough output for me. It wasn't bright enough when I needed it to be, and it did not have the red nightlight, which is an awesome feature to have. This one is capable of pushing out 300 lumens, and it's extremely bright when I really need it to be. It has a couple different dim settings, so you can take it down a notch if you do need to. But when this thing is on full power, it really puts out quite a bit of light, which is really nice when you're looking for things around camp or setting up your bear bag or even going on a night hike. The red light mode is awesome. It also has dimming capability, so you can crank it down if you need to, but it's really nice to have that around the campfire when you're just hanging out relaxing. I can't tell you how many times with my old headlamp I've had that white light on and just shined it right in somebody's face and pretty much blinded them for a couple minutes. So overall, feature set on this is pretty awesome. It comes in at just 3 ounces, and I believe I snagged this up for 15 or 20 bucks on Amazon, so price point is not too bad either. So overall, pretty pleased with this one. Alright, back to food. This is my Toaks titanium long-handled spoon. This one comes in at just 0.7 ounces, so it's extremely lightweight. But the feature I love most about this is the long handle. It's really nice to use to get to the bottom of your meals without getting your hands completely covered in food. My previous spoon that I used to use was a little bit shorter than this, and anytime I would go in to get the bottom of my food, my hand would always come up just covered in food, and it got kind of annoying. Now this does come with a nice carrying bag as well, which is really nice to keep it away from all of the dirt and grime that can accumulate in your bag. So overall, pretty pleased with this. I think it was relatively cheap. I snagged this one up on Amazon as well. On to the raincoat. This is the Columbia Watertight 2 raincoat. And as you can tell, one of the nice features about this is it folds up into its own pocket, which is a really nice feature. It helps you get it nice and compact into a nice little pouch here. And it also kind of keeps the water self-contained here. You're not having to worry about putting a wet raincoat in your bag and getting everything else completely soaked. Overall build quality is pretty solid with this. The couple times that I've had to use it so far, I haven't had any major issues. It does have a hood that is adjustable, which has worked pretty well for me in the past. Now, one downfall I do have with it, and at this price point between $40 and $50, a lot of coats are going to have this problem, is it gets pretty muggy when you're wearing this. It doesn't have much ventilation, no pit zips or anything like that. So if you are wearing this on a hot summer day, I would expect to get pretty damp on the inside wearing this. Now, on the flip side of that, one pro tip I found from a couple other buddies that I backpacked with before is I've actually used this in cold temperatures winter camping as my outer shell. I will actually put this over top my down jacket, and it does tend to keep that heat, that body heat, insulated and prevent some of that cold air from penetrating in through that down jacket. So overall, I've been pretty pleased with this. Again, Columbia Watertight 2 rain jacket. Alright, on to sleeping pad number 2. So I've pretty much always packed 2 sleeping pads, typically because extra insulation as well as preventing my sleeping pad from popping. For whatever reason, I'm super paranoid about my sleeping pad popping from, you know, twigs, sticks, roots, anything that might be under my tent, even though I typically do try and do a good job of cleaning the ground under my tent before I lay everything down. Now, this really does come in handy when it comes to winter camping. The sleeping pads that I've used to use in the past just did not have a very high R value, so I always brought this with me to help increase the insulation, and I've just continued to kind of keep bringing this with me. One really nice thing that this pad does offer me is it actually helps my bag stand up. So I will strap this on the outside of my bag, and it's really nice and easy to just set my bag down, and this kind of helps keep it stable and vertical so I can kind of dig through everything without having to lay it on the ground. So just another nice feature, and it is only £1. I believe this is the Therm-a-Rest ZRest. I've had this thing for like 10 or 15 years. It was a hand-me-down, but I typically bring this with me on any trip that I go on. Alright, getting to the last couple pieces of gear. This is my Cascade Mountain Tech trekking pole, or the trekking pole you never see me use. This is a pretty solid trekking pole. It comes in at just 8 ounces. It's made out of carbon fiber and has a cork handle to it. Overall, very, very solid build quality. I've been really pleased with it. It does come with, I think, 3 additional feet that you can interchange on here. I believe one's for snow, all-purpose, maybe gravel or cement, and one is for muddy or wet terrain. Again, overall build quality is really solid. The reason I typically don't use it is I just have my offhand typically recording and taking pictures and things like that. So I typically don't want my other hand holding onto the trekking pole. But I do keep this in my pack as a safety net in case we have any river crossings that seem to be pretty big, or if we run into any treacherous terrain. So far, the times that I have used this though, it's been rock solid for me, and very happy with this purchase so far. Last but not least, my knife. This is the smaller of the 2 that came in a pack, and this is the one I brought to Red River Gorge. Now typically I'll bring a knife to do some small wood processing. The larger one I will bring if I'm going to be doing any larger wood processing, but I typically bring these for starting natural fires. I do enjoy the time spent around campfire, and I really enjoy the challenge in getting a natural fire going, whether it's using, you know, birch bark or dried grass or something like that. It's just kind of a fun activity to do around camp, and I'll typically bring a knife to help me get that going. Well, that's pretty much it for the gear loadout video. Again, this is the loadout that I brought with me to Red River Gorge, and it's been pretty much the same loadout that I've used throughout the 2020 backpacking season so far. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Go ahead and comment below and let me know what you think. I'd also love to hear back from you guys on what backpacking gear you bring with you on a typical backpacking trip, or what's your favorite backpacking item, or luxury item if you will. What's your guys' base weights? Go ahead and comment below and let me know. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.